Welcome to the Numerology Astrology for April 10th, 2020. If you add all those numbers together, you get the number 9. The number 9 is a number of completion, intuition, psychic ability, empathy, mysticism, and magic. So this could be a really magical day. This could be just a ton of fun to dive in. It's a perfect day for meditating and wanting to explore things. And I kind of have to chuckle because in Northern California, we've kind of had this mist come in and the fog comes in. And so when the fog comes in, I just kind of want to curl up in my snuggly blanket and meditate. So we're kind of in a perfect disposition in order to do that. So how is everybody doing on self-isolating? I think Americans are doing awesome. And on the whole, the majority are heeding the suggestions and doing their very best to stay home and care for those in your immediate family. And that is allowing the earth to heal in amazingly quick ways and showing all of us that the change, while it might be hard, it actually isn't impossible. I think we're going to really shift a lot of things related to the types of work and, we can do things more remotely from home. We maybe need less offices. We need less cars. Maybe there's less regulation that corporations need to do. I mean, they might need you to sign in and know that you're on the computer working, but maybe they don't need to do all of this micromanaging. Maybe we are starting to grow up and be more mature. That would be fantastic. Now, perhaps we could stop the pollution with our choices and our actions. That would be an incredible realization. Perhaps we could start noticing in our isolation that I loved what somebody said the other day. They said they realized that all of their self-time was going shopping and doing restaurants. And when they don't have that, they suddenly realize they don't have a social life. And how many of our things that we're doing are habitual, and they're to distract us from our own discomfort, to distract us from our own aloneness, to distract us from the truth that maybe we haven't spent the time cultivating friends when maybe that's the priority. We should be cultivating friends. So I think a lot of realizations could come in today on, maybe I need to be different. Maybe the completion is I need to really see what I'm doing that is out of reaction to what I'm feeling rather than responding in a conscious way to what I'm feeling. Okay, so maybe going forward, we need to force our governments to actively make corporations do what is right and good for the planet, even more so rather than less so at the moment. That would be fantastic, because if we could get corporations to be less polluting oriented and more energy efficient, which I think works for everybody in the long run, then it would be fantastic. Okay, astrology for today. The moon is going to be in Scorpio until later in the afternoon, and then it will move into the spirited and fiery sign of Sagittarius. So at that point, when it goes into Sagittarius, you might feel restless and inconsistent from that point forward for the next couple of days. So take the time to educate yourself so you can deal with this massively changing world. And figure out what to do with that fire in the moon in Sagittarius is trying to get you to be directed towards, because Sagittarius loves to learn and it loves seeking knowledge and trying to look for an ideal. And I think everybody might start looking for what is maybe a different job or a different career or schooling that you might need to do. And this would be perfect to look at that. Now, we are still, in the meantime, dealing with the moon in Scorpio. And so moon in Scorpio is exploring the depths, exploring our intensity, exploring our feelings, exploring our emotions, exploring what we haven't felt all the way up to that point in the afternoon. And the moon in Scorpio will sextile Pluto. And this wants us to get out into nature. And I know in many places you are not allowed to go to your favorite beaches or outdoor spaces, and it's forcing us to deal with what we are feeling with no distractions. Now, I do know there's got to be a trail somewhere that you can go on and be on without a lot of people. And it's a good thing for us, even though it is uncomfortable, to just feel into what we want and where we're really going and where the discrepancy is, because there's a lot of discrepancies at the moment. The moon in Scorpio will sextile Jupiter in Capricorn, and the question is, what can I do for another right now? So let your artistic side out and discover a part of you that you have never had time to explore. The moon in Scorpio will also trine Mercury in Pisces, so your mind is ready to learn and your intelligence is now coming back online, which is going to make it even better when the moon goes into Sagittarius and then you want to study. I found even for myself, it's like all the way up to this point, I've been having trouble like studying, like sitting down and studying. I'm like, okay, I'm going to sit down and study that astrology. And I just, my own self, I'm distracted also. Okay. You have needed some deep rest. And this astrology up to this point has been pointing out how exhausted you have been. And you've needed to rest to reset your pattern. So be open and just remember that new things are not necessarily bad. The moon, when it goes into Sagittarius in the early evening, will sextile Saturn in Aquarius. This is going to make us look at all the organization and responsibility that has been weighing heavy on our mind. And you may want to take great care and deliberation in your choices and actions. And Saturn likes a structure, and Sagittarius is eternally optimistic. And so what would be an optimistic structure? I mean, what would be a bigger goal? That might be cool. What's the bigger goal that you want to be moving towards? Now, as you are asleep, Mercury will go into Aries. So know that tomorrow you're going to be constructive and focused in your mind and actions. So be careful that those patterns do not become aggressive. And then Venus in Gemini will sextile Chiron, giving you an ability to heal others with your words and interactions, which will be cool. And you're going to be softened and given a chance to heal and enhance your connections with those that you love and care for the most. It's time to let things from the past go and repair important relationships. So there's the numerology and the astrology. And I have to take a drink of water because I feel like coughing again. All right, so now, my quote for the day. There is a new way for humanity to live with life. It requires us to radically change our ways. Mother Earth is showing us how much of what we are doing is pointless and has no meaning. It is clear that our busyness is avoidance of something deeper. We are in a place of chronic, addictive disassociation, and it is killing the planet. It is time for us to show up, grow up, and stop avoiding what needs to be done. Notice how much you do how much of what you do you do not really need to do. Blah, I can talk today. Notice how much you need to cultivate a new speed and tempo in your life, and notice that connection becomes the most important thing. All right. Okay. Just because it seems that everybody loves Peru stories, I am on a Peru story roll. So I'm going to go back to the first time that I went to Peru with my dancer friends. And before I went on that trip, I had a friend that had been to Peru and had given me a stone from Machu Picchu. And these are specific granite stones, and they have a particular look to them. And I had been working with a Peruvian shaman named Don Americo Yabar. And I know that stones to the Inca and the Quechua are sacred. And taking a stone from such a place is a very, very bad idea and is very wrong. When that person gave me the stone, I knew that this was a sacred object and was considered what the Quechua called a sulca stone or a wild stone. And this stone was not happy to be away from Peru. This stone was loud, so loud that I was unable to even keep it in my house, and I had to put it outside. And I promised the stone that I would take it to Peru and back to Machu Picchu. So when the trip was created, it was very high on my agenda to take that stone back to where it belonged. And when we got to Aguas Calientes, which is the city at the base of Machu Picchu, we met a shaman who was new, because I'd never been there before, and who took us up into the City of Light. And as we went in, he took us to the top place, which is around the Sun Temple. The shaman told us that traditionally one would walk the Inca Trail to get to the city and come through the Sun Gate. And once inside the area of the city, you would sit and meditate and ask for the spirits of the city to grant you permission to do your pilgrimage into the City of Light. And when you were there, you were supposed to wait until you got a sign that it was okay for you to enter the city. He said that we did not have all day to do this, but out of respect to the souls that still protect this space, we would meditate for 20 minutes or so and then move on. So we all sat. I sat at the edge of the cliff, and just so you know, Machu Picchu is at an angle, and it's a condor flying on its side. So the top wing is where we were at the top wing, and the bottom wing is down here. And so it's a sheer cliff. I mean, everything in the Andes is up and down anyway, but in Machu Picchu, it's really up and down because Machu Picchu is a batholith, and that means it's a solid piece of granite that was pushed up through the tectonic forces from deep inside the earth and forced upwards. So it's this really weird topography, which is why there's so much sacred geometry that's actually in Machu Picchu, which is so awesome to really look at and understand. So because I had done the Quechua work, I had my mesa, which is a sacred tablecloth with my sacred stones, and I pulled them out, and I'm sitting at the edge of this cliff, and so the cliff is going down below me. And I had my little Machu Picchu stone hidden inside a folded cloth because Salka stones are not supposed to be shown. They're supposed to be kind of protected and hidden. And I'm sitting there meditating with my eyes closed. And within 5 minutes, it suddenly sounded like a 747 airplane was landing on my head. And I opened my eyes quickly to see and feel a condor flying straight down over the top of my head. And his wingtip touched the top of my head as he's flying down. And I was so startled, and so was everyone else, because, I mean, it's a huge bird. It's got a 10-foot wingspan, and so this bird is plummeting down this, like, sheer face, and I was like, whoa! And the shaman jumps up, and he points at me, and he says, "Who are you?" in this very strong voice. And I said, I'm Suzanne Wagner. And he goes, "No. Who are you to this temple? Who are you to this land? The City of Light recognizes you, and you are sacred to this place. We have not seen a condor here in over 7 years because they do not like the busyness of the tourists, and they prefer solitude. So I ask you again, who are you?" Honestly, I did not know what to say. And as I said, many strange circumstances and synchronicities happen to me whenever I'm in Peru. And this was just another one of this long series of stories I have to tell you. And I told him that perhaps the condor had recognized me because I have a stone that someone brought me from Machu Picchu. And then I pulled the stone out and showed him, and the shock and anger in his eyes was visible. And I repeated that this was my first time here and that someone brought the stone to me, and I did not take it from Machu Picchu. I came to bring it back to Machu Picchu. And then he sort of calmed down and he said, "Okay, at the end of the day, when everyone else is doing things, I'm going to give them some free time. I'm going to do something with you about this rock." And I said, "Okay." So at the end of the day, he took me into the caves under Machu Picchu. And yes, there are caves under the ruins that are ridiculously small because the people that built Machu Picchu were the smallest people. They weren't large. In fact, it was considered an honor if you were the smallest person to be able to build this. So only the smallest people built these incredible cliffs and I mean, moving these rocks. I mean, and they're the smallest people. It's remarkable. Anyway, we're going into these caves, and these caves are incredibly claustrophobic, and I am claustrophobic, and I am like sitting there trying to breathe, and I'm trying to not panic and freak out. And we went into the center, into the bowels of Machu Picchu, and he did a ritual to bring the stone back and to purify it by bringing it deep into the sacred center of this ruin. So, in life, I look at those things that compel me forward. And this was one of those. The stone that came to me gave me some added incentive to go to Peru and discover parts of my lost self. And I hope each of you listen to those promptings, and after the COVID-19 self-isolation, you too will follow those promptings that will lead you to a new and deeper awareness of who you really are. That's the reason we're here. That's the only reason we're here, is to discover ourselves and to open up our hearts and to have more compassion. All the rest of this is busyness. All the rest of it doesn't mean anything. We're really supposed to be connecting to each other on a deeper level and keeping things simple. And it's when you don't know yourself that you create clutter and chaos. There you go. Okay. So thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. Take care. Talk to you later.